Welcome back everyone. Today's session is about essay writing in part B of NLSAT. This series is to help you familiarize with how to navigate through NLSAT paper as a whole, and in today's session we are specifically looking at how to deal with essay writing in this exam. Now, essay writing is probably one of the topics that there isn't a lot of information available if you look online, and the reason is because if you look or if you read very specifically through the instructions that are provided for NLSAT, then it asks you to write the essay in a very specific format. By that I don't mean that you have to write in a specific structure, but it expects a certain level of quality in your essays, and that quality can be reflected in the specifications of the exam instructions when they ask you to write an analytical essay, and what it means to write an analytical essay, because NLSAT specifically emphasizes upon writing an analytical essay as opposed to any other kind of essay. So that's why this session is very important for the ones who have very little information about what you're actually supposed to do while you're writing an essay and what is specifically the expectation in an NLSAT exam. Because if you go online and ask anyone how to write an essay, they'll give you a standard format. They'll tell you start an introduction, move on to give them a slight background or provide a lot of factual information, then write the body of your essay in which you will do a social analysis, economic analysis, political analysis, then you move on to giving suggestions/solutions, and then in the end you move towards a conclusion. So that's a standard essay template that anyone will tell you if you were to ask anywhere online, but NLSAT asks you slightly different, and the expectation in this paper is also different. So this session is very helpful to gauge what exactly the NLSAT is trying to ask from a student when they are writing an essay. In the exam, the essay is about 15 marks, so it does carry a significant number of marks, and in many cases can be a differentiating factor for a student who is trying to score more. So let's just start with decoding what does it mean to write an analytical essay, and one way to understand that is by differentiating it from what is a descriptive essay. So if you look at it, a descriptive essay, which is something most of you till now have written, maybe in some competitive exam, maybe as part of your undergraduate degree, or in school, or in any maybe essay writing competitions as well. Anywhere you have interacted with any essay, 90% of the times you must have seen descriptive essays, and a descriptive essay is something which tells you what happened. They paint a picture of narrate events or explain how something works. Think of them as a detailed report that focus on facts, chronology, and surface level information. This is to note that by this description, I do not mean to say that descriptive essays are bad. They are just a different types of essay, and NLSAT as such expects a different kind of essay from you. So any essay which is reliant upon facts, chronology, and surface level information in totality looks like a descriptive essay. So basically you're describing something in these kind of essays. You're providing as much information as you have on that topic in these kind of essays. So that is what a descriptive essay looks like. And most NLSAT aspirants, they will read up a lot of newspapers, they'll read up a lot of information about different essay topics, they'll go through compendiums of essay topics and try to come up with as much information as possible. And when the exam comes, they'll dump all that information in their essay writing, and they expect that to be a good essay. It'll certainly get you some marks. If you write a descriptive essay, it's not like the assessor is going to simply throw it away in a trash can. They're just likely not going to treat it as good essay as an analytical essay. So maybe these kind of essays, even if you write really well, at best will fetch you 7 marks or 8 marks, but nothing more than that. That is because you have only mentioned facts, information, details, all sort of things which are only descriptive. So when you're studying something, or when you're memorizing information or facts or details from newspaper so as to write better essays, keep in mind that just writing them alone or just copy pasting them in the exam alone is not enough. In contrast, an analytical essay digs deeper to explore why and how. This why and how is the key benchmark of an analytical essay, and it is something which forms the essence of an analytical essay, because in an analytical essay you're basically trying to prove something, you're trying to put forth an argument. So if I had to simplify it even further for you, just like how you write a logical reasoning answer in part B, where you're expected to take one side and defend that side, your essay is also an extension of that, except in this case the lines will not be as clearly divided, but you're still expected to argue something. So you can call an analytical essay as an argumentative essay as well. Any essay which involves an argumentative flavor, something where you're arguing something, is basically what your essay will look like in its analytical form. So it's the one where you're digging deeper to explore why and how. They break down complex issues, examine causes and effects, identify patterns and evaluate significance. In simple words, they're trying to identify why something is happening, how is it happening, and what are the reasons behind it. So, and we'll use a demonstration as well. I have used an example below to give you more clarity on this. But an analytical essay is trying to get behind things and see why something happens and how it happens. That is more important for an analytical essay as opposed to just simply describing what is happening. Instead of just reporting what's happening, they interpret and judge. Judge part not so important, but they interpret and provide some insights into why something is happening. So for example, a descriptive essay will say, let's say the essay is on a topic related to social media. A descriptive essay will say that the social media usage has increased among teenagers, with 85% now using platforms daily. So this is purely a factual information that the social media usage has increased among teenagers, and then you backed it with a fact with 85% using platforms daily. Analytical essay will say the surge in teenage social media usage reflects societal shift towards digital validation, potentially reshaping how young people form identity and relationships. This may sound slightly complex. In case it does, you can also simplify it in easy words. So if I had to simplify this, I could say that increase in teenage social media usage is reflecting a societal shift towards more digital approval, more digital reassurance from strangers on the social media, potentially reshaping how people who are now growing up with the social media, how their identity is being formed alongside social media. So if I'm somebody who's 10-year-olds, my whole identity maybe 15 years ago was shaped by how I'm playing with my friends in the parks, but now my identity is shaped by how I'm interacting with other friends or strangers on social media. So the difference between these two is that one only states something, this one actually tells you why or what could be a possible reason behind this increase in usage by teenagers on social media. So while the descriptive essay only states a fact, the analytical essay tries to go behind it and see why is this increase in social media, what are the impacts of that increase on social media on those young teenagers who are using that platform. So that is the best way to show you how really a same information can be written in a descriptive way and the same information could be written in an analytical way. The only difference here is that in this case we are asking some questions. We are asking questions like, why is there an increase in them? How is that increase affecting these teenagers? What are the consequences of that? So as is stated here, the why and hows are very important. So anytime you're looking at an essay topic, you have to judge that topic by asking these questions about why and how, and then you will automatically come up with these reasons. So that is what is important about writing an analytical essay. So let's move on to having some key strategies for strong analytical essay writing, okay? The first step in writing an analytical essay is to start with a clear analytical thesis. In simple words, thesis means my claim / argument. Just okay, whatever you're trying to put forth, whatever is it that you want to argue, is basically your thesis. So all analytical essays, unlike a descriptive essay, just like how you write your logical reasoning answer, the first step in that answer is that you ask yourself, which side have I decided in favor of? And then you write your answer, right? The same you are expected to do with the essay. Once you read your topic, make up your mind. For example, I'll give you, in the next session, I'll also take up a sample essay in front of you and show you how you go about actually writing an analytical essay. For example, if the topic is should social media be allowed for young teenagers who are below 18 years of age, in that case you decide whether or not I would want the social media to be permitted for children below age of 18 or not. And if you are, then what is your argument for it? What are the claims that you're going to make for it? So that's what it means to have a thesis. It means that I have to state something. What is my claim? What is it that I want to argue? That is very important. So just like how you start your logical reasoning answer with a statement of in whose side have you decided, you do the same thing with your essay as well. Your thesis should present an argument or interpretation and not just state a fact. So again, we are not stating a fact that will take us towards a descriptive essay. It should answer, so what about the social event you're analyzing? So whatever topic is you're writing your essay on, it must involve some element of what am I trying to prove here? What am I trying to display through my argument over here? Now, a very natural question that many students ask is then, what do we do and how do we come up with all this analysis you have said? A descriptive essay you can easily attempt if you have enough information on it. But what about an analytical one? So therefore we use a why, how and what if framework. Many of these online tools will tell you to use something like political analysis, economic analysis, cultural and social analysis. Along these 4 lines, do an analysis and write an essay. Instead of that, use this. This is what you use for an analytical essay. Why is this event happening? Whatever is it. If it's about deciding whether or not social media should be banned for children below 18 years of age, we ask why is it for us either important to ban social media or not ban social media? What is the importance of this and why is it that we are doing this? So that's why the first question we ask is why. And once you ask yourself why, you'll have to come up with a reason, and whatever reason you come up with, you write down in your sheet. Keep in mind, the good thing about an analytical essay, unlike a descriptive essay, is that it does not limit you. If you're writing a descriptive essay, you'll always be limited by your own information. If you've read up about it, all well and fine, you'll write everything you have memorized and you'll jot it down on a piece of paper. Unlike that, in an analytical essay, you're not bound by all that. So if it's a bad day for you and you have not read up enough about that topic, you'll not have sufficient content to write on that topic. But for an analytical essay, you have that luxury. It's not like you're bound by any factual information. Whatever you can come up with in your mind, so long as it's logical, you can put it down on your paper sheet and you will get some marks for it. How does it connect to the broader patterns? So let's say that if you're banning social media for children below 18, how is it important in the ongoing global context? Or how is it that it's affecting these specific stakeholders who are teenagers? So if you're banning for them, what would happen if we ban for them and how is it affecting them? And the second is, what if this trend continues? So if we were not to make any difference or if we were not to ban social media for them, how will the world look like? So for instance, if children keep using these social media platforms, what are the consequences of it? So what if basically here means, what are the consequences of it? So that is what we are trying to look at when we are using a why, how and what if framework to do that. In the next session, we'll actually use this to demonstrate how do you practically use this framework to apply to an essay topic. But this is basically what your framework should look like when you are thinking about an analytical essay. These 3 things, why, how, what if, should always be circulating in your brain, because so long as they're going on in your brain, you'll always come up with good reasons. And all that assessors want is to see how well can you personally reason it out. They're not trying to look at all the material statistic facts in your brain. They're not that much interested in that. You can use that factual information also alongside this framework, but the key part of your essay will always be this framework. So they're more interested in knowing how you think. And if you can demonstrate that in your essay, you'll always get better marks. So please do not shy away from using this because it exposes your own thinking. It's a good thing it exposes your thinking. It'll actually get you much better marks than writing a purely statement of facts. Now, what should be the structure of your essay? Again, a very frequently recurring question and a pertinent doubt that many students would have. So let's keep it very simple. Of course, it goes without saying, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to follow the structure. It's completely okay if you have a free-flowing structure in which you do not strictly abide by this kind of a body, but you can just keep it more flexible and you can keep it more to the natural tone of your writing. So first is of course introduction. In about 1 or 2 or 3 lines you can finish your introduction. Then comes background, catchy and attractive. What I mean by this is not that you have to write some quote by Mahatma Gandhi or that you have to pull out some fancy English to write a very catchy introduction, not that. By background I mean that if a topic is let's say about should women be compensated for their domestic caregiving responsibilities. So all our mothers who perform domestic work and their caregiving work they perform within the households, should they be given compensation for that? So if that's a topic, then we are trying to write some background on it as to why is this topic even being asked, why are you even writing an essay on this topic, has there been any recent development in and around this topic, is there any existing provision as such in our laws which allows women to claim compensation, or what are the potential reasons as to why this essay even needs to be discussed. So in your background you're basically trying to display why is this essay relevant and why does it even need to be discussed at the first place. So that's what I mean by having a catchy and attractive background, wherein you're just basically explaining why this essay needs to be even discussed. Third, thesis. Basically state your claim. You can also do this alongside introduction. No need to do this at the third step. You can do this before introduction as well. It doesn't really make a difference. Body, this is the main part of your essay. This will cover up, I think, a good 50 to 60% of your essay, which is backing your arguments with reason and analysis. Whatever your thesis is, you'll have to support it with arguments and reasons. So that will form the body of your essay. Then comes engaging with multiple perspectives. This basically means engaging with diverse viewpoints, okay? Viewpoints which will not go in your favor. So for example, if you decide that yes, women should be compensated for their domestic caregiving responsibilities, then the other side will naturally say that they should not be compensated. So then you must consider what could be the possible claims that will come from the other side, which is defending that the domestic caregiving responsibility should not be compensated. So consider those viewpoints and respond to them. So you should engage with multiple perspectives, and especially the viewpoints that are not in your favor and that are actually in favor of the other side. Respond to them, address them, and see how well can you work with that information. Evidence and analysis balance. So now of course some of you will ask that you have given us a layout of what an analytical essay looks like, then does that mean all the things we have read up in the newspapers while preparing for essay, will all of them become irrelevant? Absolutely not. It's about how much of the space you're giving to that descriptive part of your essay. So the balance that I would generally suggest is that keep it a 30-70 rule. 30% presenting evidence, 70% analyzing what it means. So if you, let's say you have information about, you read up in newspaper that a study shows that 70% of teenagers who use social media who are below 18 years of age tend to be vulnerable to social or mental health problems like anxiety and stress. So you read about that, and that's a statistic. So you can write that statistic that 70% of teenagers are reported to be susceptible to mental health issues as they grow up. And then once you've written this statistic, analyze it. So that's how you use it. Do not just state your statistic and move on. Once you've stated what you know about it, analyze it, what it means. So you could say that one of the potential reasons they could grow to be susceptible to mental health issues could be because during their early childhood they may not have had as much social and physical support of other peers and of their own parents. So they grow to be much more lonely, they might grow to be isolating. So those could be a reason as to why they face heightened mental health issues. The objective here is not that your analysis will always be factually correct. So long as you can make your analysis sounds logically connected enough, it's good. So that's how you should go about it. Whatever evidence, whatever factual description you have, state that and then analyze it. So that's why it says that follow this balance of 30-70 rule. It can also be 20-80, that's fine. But follow this rule. Do not let it become 40-60 in any case, okay? That is something which is not preferable. Now these are some very helpful tips and tricks, okay? Because of course in the exam, let's say you have about 5 minutes because the time management didn't go your way, so you only have 5 minutes to finish your essay. So maybe following all these enhanced techniques or maybe these detailed techniques I've discussed with you is not feasible for you. So what do we do? These are some very helpful practical writing techniques which you can use irrespective of how much time you have, and if you have less time, then they become more important. Use analytical transition. Even if you're writing a descriptive essay, even if you think it's becoming descriptive, at least try to use words, instead of using words like next, also, furthermore, avoid these words. Because these words, even if you write a good essay, they make it look like as if it's a descriptive essay. So instead of use these words, use something like this suggests, consequently, more significantly, or this tension reveals, or use language which uses words like I argue, I propose. Focus on these kind of words because these words have an analytical flavor to them. So when you use word like I argue this and that, or when you say that this suggests that so and so happens when students who are below 18 use social media, consequently that's how it impacts their mental health. Using these words make your essay sound more analytical. So even if it's not very analytical, usage of these words gives it an analytical flavor. So that's why avoid using these sort of words and focus on more on these words so that your essay looks slightly more nuanced. Ask probing questions, like throughout your essay. Pose questions like, what does this reveal about? Why might this pattern emerge? How does this challenge conventional thinking? Basically the why, how framework that we have discussed above. Why, what, how, what if? These are the questions you must keep consistently asking yourself to come up with good points. Avoid surface level observation. Don't just stop at obvious conclusions. If analyzing social media's impact on democracy, don't just say it spreads misinformation. Analyze why people believe false information, how algorithms amplify false information, what this means for the democratic discourse. So any person who's writing a descriptive essay on, let's say, social media and democracy, then they'll only say that it spreads misinformation, but assess why it spreads misinformation, how it spreads misinformation, what happens when it spreads misinformation, consequences of spreading misinformation. So that way you're exploring multiple facets of the same thing, and it makes your essay look way better than just simply stating one fact like it spreads misinformation. So this is what you're basically supposed to do by using this what, how, if framework. Lastly, very quickly, some basic pitfalls to avoid. No need to write in flowery language. Many students ask me, do I need to have great English to be able to write a good essay? Absolutely not. Keep your English simple, keep it, focus more on clarity. That's way more important than writing in flowery language or in highly sophisticated language. That all is not necessary. Don't over explain your arguments. By this I also mean do not repeat what you have already stated. No need to do that. If you have stated something in sufficient detail, move on to the next argument. So that's why avoid repetition. Keep introductions and conclusions short. You do not need to have very elaborate introduction or an elaborate conclusion. Focus more on the body of your essay and the part where you're making your arguments. So this is all there is to discuss about analytical essays. I hope this session at least gave you some insights into how to go about writing an essay in this exam and what you're expected to write and how you're expected to think before writing an essay in this exam. So I hope this session was helpful. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the future sessions.